Captain Marcus Chun stood in the salvage yard, staring at the ugliest ship he had ever seen. The vessel looked like someone had welded together spare parts from a dozen different spacecraft and called it a day. Rust covered most of its hull, and several panels hung loose like broken teeth. The registration number painted on its side was so faded he could barely make it out. UES Resilience. This is what command assigned me, Marcus muttered, kicking a piece of debris that had fallen from the ship's undercarriage. Lieutenant Sarah Rodriguez walked up beside him, her tablet clutched against her chest. She had been Marcus's second-in-command for 3 years, and she could read his moods better than anyone. Right now, his mood was somewhere between disgusted and furious. "Sir, I've reviewed the files," Sarah said carefully. "The Resilience has been sitting here for 8 months. 3 different captains have refused to take command of her." Marcus walked around the ship, noting every dent, every patch job, every sign of neglect. The Resilience was a Frankenstein monster of human engineering. Her main hull came from a decommissioned cargo freighter. Someone had bolted on weapon systems from old patrol boats. The engine section looked like it belonged to a mining vessel. Even her life support systems appeared to be cobbled together from multiple sources. "What's her service history?" Marcus asked. Sarah consulted her tablet. Built 12 years ago from salvage components during the resource shortage. She served as everything from a supply runner to a prison transport. Her last assignment was hauling garbage to deep space disposal sites. A garbage truck. Command had given him command of a garbage truck with guns. The truth was, Marcus knew why he was here. 6 months ago, he had disobeyed direct orders during the Battle of Kepler Station. His actions had saved 300 civilian lives, but they had also cost the fleet 2 destroyers. The military brass didn't court-martial heroes, but they found creative ways to punish them. "Who else is assigned to this bucket?" Marcus asked. 14 crew members, sir. All volunteers." That surprised him. "Volunteers?" "Yes, sir. Word got out about your assignment." Apparently, half the fleet wanted to serve under the captain who told Admiral Morrison to stuff his evacuation order. Despite himself, Marcus smiled. The Battle of Kepler Station had been a disaster from the start. The alien hegemony forces had arrived faster than anyone expected, and Admiral Morrison had ordered all civilian transports to be abandoned so the fleet could retreat. Marcus had refused to leave behind 3 ships full of families. He had taken his destroyer, the Phoenix, and bought them time to escape. The Phoenix hadn't made it out. Marcus walked up the loading ramp into the Resilience. The interior was just as mismatched as the exterior. The corridor walls were painted 3 different colors, apparently depending on which ship the sections had come from. Some panels were human standard, others were obviously alien tech that had been adapted for human use. "Sir, you should see this," Sarah called from up ahead. Marcus followed her voice to what he assumed was the bridge. When he stepped inside, he stopped dead in his tracks. The bridge was actually impressive. Someone had taken the time to integrate all the different systems into a coherent command center. The captain's chair looked comfortable, and the main view screen was larger than what he'd had on the Phoenix. The previous captain spent most of his time upgrading the bridge, Sarah explained. "Captain Torres. He died in his sleep 4 months ago. Natural causes." Marcus sat down in the captain's chair and looked around. Despite the ship's appearance, everything seemed to be in working order. Lights functioned, displays showed clear readouts, and when he pressed the intercom button, it worked perfectly. "All hands, this is Captain Chun," he announced. "Report to the bridge for briefing." Over the next few minutes, his crew assembled. Marcus had seen stranger collections of people, but not by much. His chief engineer was a short, stocky woman named Elena Vasquez who looked like she could arm wrestle a cargo loader. His weapons officer was a tall, thin man named David Kim who appeared to be younger than some of Marcus's socks. The helmsman was an alien, one of the few Centauri who served in human fleets. "I'm going to be honest with you," Marcus told them once they had all gathered. "This ship is ugly, outdated, and apparently nobody wants it. Command gave it to me because they think I need to be taught a lesson. But we're going to prove them wrong." Elena raised her hand. "Sir, with respect, how do we prove anything with this pile of junk?" By making it work, Marcus said, this ship might be built from spare parts, but spare parts can be just as good as new parts if they're put together right. Chief Vasquez, I want you to go through every system on this ship. I don't care if it's ugly. I just want to know it works. Yes, sir, Elena nodded. Mr. Kim, I want you to test every weapon system. If something doesn't work, figure out why. If it can't be fixed, figure out what we can use to replace it. Understood, Captain. Marcus looked at the Centauri helmsman. Mr. Kelvik, I want you to take this ship out for a test flight. Push it as hard as you safely can. I want to know what she's capable of. Kelvik's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, which Marcus had learned was the Centauri equivalent of nod. It shall be done, Captain Chun. Over the next 3 days, Marcus watched his crew transform from a collection of misfits into a functioning unit. Elena discovered that the Resilience's mismatched engines actually gave her more power and flexibility than a standard ship. The mining vessel engines provided massive thrust, while the freighter engines offered excellent fuel efficiency. David found that the mixed weapon systems, while unconventional, gave them firepower options that most ships couldn't match. But it was Kelvik who made the most interesting discovery. Captain, the Centauri said on the 3rd day, you must see this. Marcus joined Kelvik on the bridge. The helmsman was running diagnostics on the navigation systems, and his screen showed something Marcus had never seen before. The previous captains, they never understood this ship, Kelvik explained. They try to fly her like a normal vessel. But look at these readings. The screen showed the ship's structural integrity patterns. Where a normal ship would show stress points and weak areas, the Resilience showed something different. The mismatched components were actually reinforcing each other. She's stronger than she should be, Marcus realized. Much stronger, Kelvik agreed. The way the different hull sections connect, they distribute stress in unexpected ways. In a normal ship, damage to one area can cause cascading failures. In this ship, damage to one area is absorbed and redistributed. Marcus stared at the readings. The Resilience wasn't just a collection of spare parts. She was a completely new type of ship, accidentally created by desperate engineers during wartime shortages. Instead of following standard design principles, they had simply made things work. And somehow, that approach had created something unique. Sir, Sarah's voice came over the intercom. We're receiving new orders from command. Marcus made his way to the communication station. The message was brief and not particularly encouraging. The Resilience was assigned to patrol duty in the Outer Rim, specifically the Titan Nebula region. It was the kind of assignment given to ships that command didn't expect to see again. The Titan Nebula, Elena said when Marcus announced their orders. That's where the hegemony has been probing our defenses. I know, Marcus replied. It's also where 3 patrol ships have gone missing in the last 2 months. The crew exchanged glances. Everyone knew about the missing ships. The official reports blamed equipment failures and navigation errors, but the rumors suggested something else entirely. The alien hegemony was testing human defenses, looking for weak points. Sir, David spoke up. Are we expected to patrol that region alone? That's what the orders say, Marcus confirmed. We depart tomorrow at 0800 hours. That night, Marcus stood alone on the bridge, looking out at the stars through the main view screen. In 12 hours, he would take this ugly, unwanted ship into one of the most dangerous regions of human space. He had 14 crew members who trusted him, and a ship that nobody understood. But as he sat in the captain's chair, something felt right about the Resilience. She might be built from spare parts, but she was a spare parts now. And if the hegemony wanted to test human defenses, they were about to learn something about human ingenuity. Marcus activated the intercom one more time. All hands, this is the captain. Tomorrow we head into the unknown. The Resilience has been ignored, dismissed, and abandoned by everyone who came before us. But we're going to change that. This ship is going to prove that sometimes the things nobody wants turn out to be exactly what everyone needs. He paused, looking around the mismatched bridge that was already starting to feel like home. Get some rest. Tomorrow we show the galaxy what this crew and this ship can do. As the ship's lights dimmed for the night cycle, Marcus remained on the bridge. Through the view screen, he could see other ships in the fleet. Sleek destroyers and powerful cruisers, all built to specification and maintained to perfection. They were beautiful ships, but they were also predictable. The Resilience was neither beautiful nor predictable. But, as Marcus was beginning to understand, that might be exactly what made her special. The next morning, the Resilience departed Earth space for the first time under Marcus's command. As they pulled away from the orbital shipyards, Marcus noticed something interesting on the scanner displays. Several other ships were changing course to watch them leave. Word had spread about the misfit captain and his garbage scow crew. "Sir," Sarah reported from the communication station, "we're receiving a message from the UES Normandy." The Normandy was Admiral Morrison's flagship. Marcus felt his jaw tighten. "Put it through." Admiral Morrison's face appeared on the main screen. The man looked exactly as Marcus remembered, cold, calculating, and utterly convinced of his own superiority. "Captain Chen," Morrison said without preamble, "I trust you understand the significance of your current assignment." "I understand it perfectly, Admiral," Marcus replied evenly. "Good. The Outer Rim is no place for heroics or disobedience. Follow your orders, patrol your assigned route, and file regular reports. Nothing more." "Of course, Admiral." Morrison's expression shifted slightly. "The Resilience is not the Phoenix, Captain. She won't inspire the same loyalty or confidence. Remember that." The transmission ended before Marcus could respond. Around the bridge, his crew pretended they hadn't heard the Admiral's words, but Marcus could see the tension in their postures. "He's wrong, you know," Elena said quietly. Marcus looked at his chief engineer. "About what?" "About this ship not inspiring loyalty. I've been on 12 different vessels in 15 years of service. I've never seen a crew work harder to make something succeed." David nodded in agreement. "My last assignment was on a brand new destroyer. Everything was perfect. Everything worked exactly as designed. It was also the most boring 8 months of my career." Kelvick's 4 eyes focused on Marcus. "In Centauri culture, we have a saying, the broken blade that is reforged becomes stronger than the sword that never knew battle. This ship has been broken and reforged many times." Marcus felt something shift inside him. For months, he had been angry about his demotion and assignment to the Resilience. He had seen it as punishment, as command's way of shelving him until he was forgotten. But looking at his crew, listening to their words, he realized something important. The Resilience wasn't his punishment. She was his opportunity. "Mr. Kelvick," Marcus said, "set course for the Titan Nebula. Maximum cruise speed." "Course laid in, Captain." "Engage." The stars shifted on the view screen as the Resilience turned toward the edge of human space. Behind them, the safety and order of the core systems grew smaller and smaller. Ahead lay the unknown, the dangerous, and the impossible. But for the first time in months, Captain Marcus Chun felt like he was exactly where he belonged. Story Part 2, 3 days into their journey to the Titan Nebula, Marcus discovered that the Resilience had capabilities no one had bothered to document. It started when Elena came to the bridge with a confused expression and a tablet full of readings that shouldn't exist. "Captain, we have a problem," she announced. "Or maybe we have a miracle. I'm honestly not sure which." Marcus looked up from the tactical reports he'd been reviewing. "What kind of problem, Chief?" Elena set her tablet down on the command console and pulled up a series of energy readings. "I was running standard diagnostics on the power distribution system when I found something impossible. According to these readings, we're generating 30% more power than our engines should be capable of producing." "Faulty sensors," Sarah suggested. "That's what I thought, so I checked manually. The readings are accurate. This ship is somehow producing more energy than it should be able to." Marcus studied the data. Elena was right. The numbers did make sense. The Resilience's mismatched engines should have been less efficient than standard designs, not more. "Any theories?" Marcus asked. Elena shrugged. "The only thing I can think of is that the different engine types are creating some kind of harmonic resonance. When they work together, they amplify each other's output. It's like three musicians playing different songs, but somehow creating a beautiful harmony. David looked up from his weapons console. Speaking of impossible things, I've been getting some strange readings from our defensive systems, too. Marcus was beginning to sense a pattern. What kind of readings? Well, you know how our shields are cobbled together from different ships? I thought that would make them weaker, with gaps between the different field generators. But when I ran combat simulations, the opposite happened. The overlapping fields are actually reinforcing each other. Marcus walked over to David's station and looked at the tactical displays. The young weapons officer was right. Instead of creating weak points, the mismatched shield generators were creating a defensive matrix that was stronger than the sum of its parts. It's like the ship is teaching itself how to work better, David continued. Every time I run a new simulation, the systems integrate a little more efficiently. That's impossible, Sarah said. Ships don't learn. This one might, Kelvik interjected from the helm. I have been monitoring our navigation systems, and I am observing similar anomalies. The Resilience is plotting courses that are more efficient than what the computer calculates. She seems to be finding shortcuts through hyperspace that standard navigation algorithms miss. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. He had served on dozens of ships throughout his career, and none of them had behaved like this. Ships were tools, machines that did what they were programmed to do. They didn't adapt, they didn't learn, and they certainly didn't improve themselves. Chief, I want you to run a complete diagnostic of all systems, Marcus ordered. I want to know everything about this ship that's not in the official documentation. That could take days, sir. Then, we better get started. Over the next 48 hours, Elena's diagnostic revealed the full extent of the Resilience's uniqueness. The ship wasn't just a collection of spare parts. Somehow, the different components had begun to integrate with each other at a level that went beyond simple mechanical connections. The most striking discovery came when Elena was examining the ship's computer core. What she found there changed everything. Captain, you need to see this immediately. Elena's voice crackled over the intercom. Marcus found her in the computer core, a cramped space deep in the ship's belly that housed the central processing units. Elena was staring at a display screen with an expression of complete bewilderment. The computer core isn't one system, she explained. It's 7 different systems that have somehow networked themselves together, and not in any way that human engineers designed. Marcus looked at the display. Instead of showing the orderly, hierarchical structure of a standard ship's computer, the screen displayed something that looked almost organic. Data pathways twisted and branched like neural networks, creating connections that seem to emerge and disappear on their own. It's like the different computer systems are talking to each other, Elena continued, sharing information, coordinating functions, even backing each other up when one system gets overloaded. That's not possible, Marcus said, though he was beginning to realize that impossible might not apply to the Resilience. I know it's not possible, but it's happening anyway. And, sir, I think the computer systems are learning from each other. Look at this. Elena pulled up another display showing the ship's performance metrics over time. Every graph showed the same pattern: steady improvement in efficiency, effectiveness, and integration. The longer we've been aboard, the better the ship has been performing, Elena said. It's like she's adapting to our crew, learning how we work, and optimizing herself to match our needs. Marcus stared at the data, trying to process what he was seeing. If Elena was right, the Resilience wasn't just a ship. She was something entirely new, a hybrid of human engineering and emergent artificial intelligence that had evolved on its own. Sir, Sarah's voice came over the intercom, interrupting his thoughts. We're receiving a distress signal from the outer marker buoys. Marcus and Elena rushed to the bridge. Sarah was already coordinating with David and Kelvik to plot a course toward the signal's origin. Report. Marcus ordered as he took his position in the captain's chair. Automated distress beacon from marker buoy 7, Sarah replied. The signal is weak and intermittent, but it indicates a catastrophic system failure. Marcus pulled up the tactical display. Marker buoy 7 was positioned at the edge of the Titan Nebula, designed to monitor hegemony activity and provide early warning of alien incursions. How long since the last regular transmission? Marcus asked. 36 hours, sir. The buoy was supposed to send a routine status update yesterday morning, but nothing came through. That was troubling. The marker buoys were heavily armored and equipped with redundant systems specifically designed to prevent communication failures. For one to go silent, something serious would have had to happen. Mr. Kelvick, set course for marker buoy 7. Maximum speed. Course set, Captain. We will arrive in 4 hours and 23 minutes. As the Resilience changed course toward the nebula, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that they were heading into something significant. 3 patrol ships had disappeared in this region over the past 2 months, and now a monitoring station had gone silent. Either the hegemony was becoming more aggressive, or something else entirely was happening in the nebula. Sir, David called from his station, I'm detecting some unusual energy readings from the nebula itself. Marcus walked over to examine David's displays. The young weapons officer was right. There were energy patterns in the nebula that didn't match standard stellar phenomena. Those look almost like engine signatures, David observed. Almost, Marcus agreed, but not quite like anything in our database. Sarah looked up from her communications console. Sir, I've been monitoring all frequencies for additional distress signals. I'm not picking up anything from our missing patrol ships, but there's something else. Very faint transmissions on frequencies that the hegemony uses. Can you decode them? Not yet, sir. The signals are too degraded by the nebular interference. But they're definitely artificial, and they're definitely not human. Marcus felt the pieces of a puzzle beginning to come together, though he couldn't yet see the complete picture. Hegemony signals in the nebula, missing human ships, and now a monitoring station gone dark. Whatever was happening in the Titan Nebula, it was bigger than simple patrol disappearances. All hands, this is the captain, Marcus announced over the intercom. We are approaching a potential combat situation. I want all systems checked and ready. This is not a drill. For the next 4 hours, the crew of the Resilience prepared for whatever they might find at Marker Buoy 7. Elena made final adjustments to the power distribution systems. David ran diagnostics on all weapons, and Kelvick calculated escape routes from various points around the buoy's location. As they approached the Marker Buoy's coordinates, what they found was both more and less than they had expected. Visual contact with Marker Buoy 7, Kelvick reported. The main view screen showed the monitoring station hanging in space like a broken toy. The buoy's hull was intact but dark. No lights, no movement, no sign of the activity that should be present on a functioning station. Life signs? Marcus asked. Sarah checked her sensors. Negative, sir. The buoy is automated, but I'm not detecting any power signatures either. Take us closer, Mr. Kelvick. Keep our shields up and weapons ready. As the Resilience approached the silent buoy, Marcus noticed something troubling. The station wasn't just dark. It looked like it had been carefully shut down rather than damaged by an attack. Sir, David called from his weapons station, I'm detecting residual traces of hegemony weapons fire, but not on the buoy itself. The traces are scattered around this area of space, like there was a battle here. Any debris from our ships? Some, sir. I'm reading fragments consistent with human hull materials, but not enough to account for entire vessels. Marcus studied the tactical display, trying to understand what had happened here. There had clearly been a fight, but the Marker Buoy had been spared. That suggested the hegemony hadn't been trying to destroy human monitoring capabilities. They had been trying to capture them. Chief, can you get that buoy's computers back online? Marcus asked. I could try, sir, but I'll need to send a technical team over in a shuttle. Do it. Take whoever you need, but be careful. If the hegemony has been here, they might have left surprises. Elena selected 2 technicians and prepared to transfer to the Marker Buoy. As the shuttle departed, Marcus found himself staring at the view screen and wondering what they would find in the buoy's memory banks. An hour later, Elena's voice crackled over the communication system. Captain, you're not going to believe what we found. Try me, Chief. The buoy's sensors recorded everything. The hegemony didn't destroy our patrol ships, sir. They captured them. All 3 vessels were taken intact, along with their crews. Marcus felt his blood run cold. Captured ships meant captured technology, captured intelligence, and captured human beings. But it also meant something else. Chief, if they captured our ships, where did they take them? According to the sensor logs, deeper into the nebula. There's a large artificial structure about 6 light hours from here. The captured ships were taken there. Marcus looked around the bridge at his crew. 14 people on a ship that nobody wanted, facing an enemy that had already captured 3 vessels and their crews. Any sane captain would return to base and report what they had found. But Marcus had never been accused of being entirely sane. Chief, download everything from that buoy and get back here immediately, Marcus ordered. Mr. Kelvik, start plotting a course deeper into the nebula. Sir, Sarah spoke up carefully. Shouldn't we report this to command first? Marcus considered the question. By regulation, he should absolutely report the situation and wait for orders. But by the time command mobilized a proper response, any captured human crews would likely be dead or worse. We'll send a message to command informing them of the situation, Marcus decided. But we're not waiting for backup. Sir, David said quietly, we're 1 ship against an unknown hegemony force. That's not exactly favorable odds. Marcus looked around the bridge once more, taking in the mismatched panels, the jury-rigged systems, and the faces of his crew. The resilience might be built from spare parts, but she was proving to be more than the sum of those parts. And his crew, for all their diverse backgrounds and questionable assignments, were proving to be exactly the kind of people he wanted beside him when facing the impossible. Mr. Kim, Marcus said, the resilience has been underestimated by everyone who's encountered her so far. I'm betting the hegemony will make the same mistake. As Elena's shuttle docked and the crew prepared to venture deeper into the nebula, Marcus felt the familiar weight of command settle on his shoulders. But this time, it didn't feel like a burden. It felt like an opportunity to prove that sometimes the things nobody believes in turn out to be exactly what the galaxy needs. Story Part 3: The deeper the resilience traveled into the Titan Nebula, the more obvious it became that they were entering hostile territory. The nebula's dense gas clouds provided excellent cover, but they also masked sensor readings and made navigation treacherous. What concerned Marcus most was that someone else was clearly using the nebula for the same purposes. Captain, Kelvik reported from the helm, I am detecting artificial gravity wells scattered throughout this region. Someone has been placing navigation beacons to create safe passage routes through the nebula. Marcus studied the tactical display, showing Kelvik's findings. The pattern was sophisticated, indicating long-term planning rather than opportunistic raiding. The hegemony has been building infrastructure here, Marcus realized. This isn't a temporary base of operations. They're planning to stay. Elena had been monitoring the ship's systems since they entered the nebula, and she approached the captain's chair with a concerned expression. Sir, I'm reading some unusual interactions between our engines and the nebular gases. The resilience is actually using the nebula's energy patterns to boost our power output. Is that safe? Sarah asked. I honestly don't know, Elena admitted. The ship's computer systems seem to be adapting our engine configuration in real time to take advantage of the nebular conditions. I've never seen anything like it. Marcus wasn't entirely surprised. The resilience had been demonstrating unusual capabilities since they began their mission, and he was beginning to understand that conventional rules didn't apply to their ship. How much additional power are we generating? Marcus asked. About 40% over normal maximum output, Elena replied. And the efficiency keeps improving. It's like the ship is learning how to process nebular gases as a supplementary fuel source. That information could be crucial if they encountered hostile forces. Extra power meant stronger shields, faster engines, and more effective weapons. It also meant the resilience might be able to do things that enemy forces wouldn't expect. Sir, David called from his weapons station, I'm detecting energy signatures ahead. Multiple contacts, definitely artificial. Marcus returned to the tactical display. David was right. There were several large structures approximately 2 hours away at their current speed. The energy patterns indicated significant industrial activity. Can you identify the structures? Marcus asked. Not yet, sir. The nebular interference is making detailed scans difficult. But whatever they are, they're big. And they're powered by technology that doesn't match anything in our databases. Sarah looked up from her communications console with a grim expression. Sir, I'm picking up human communication signals from the same area. Very faint, but definitely human encryption protocols. Marcus felt his jaw tighten. If there were human signals coming from those structures, it confirmed that their missing patrol ships and crews were being held there. The question was whether any of them were still alive. All right, people, Marcus announced to the bridge crew. We're going to proceed carefully and gather as much intelligence as possible before we make any moves. Chief, I want our engines ready for maximum emergency power. Mr. Kim, charge all weapons, but keep them powered down until I give the word. Mr. Kelvick, plot multiple escape routes from our destination. Sir, Sarah interjected, should we try to contact the human personnel we're detecting? Not yet. If we start transmitting, we'll reveal our position. Let's see what we're dealing with first. As the Resilience crept through the nebula toward the unknown structures, Marcus found himself thinking about the crew members who might be imprisoned ahead. Military protocol dictated that rescue operations should only be attempted when success was reasonably assured. But Marcus had never been one to abandon people simply because saving them was difficult. An hour later, Kelvick announced that they were approaching visual range of their destination. What appeared on the main view screen was unlike anything Marcus had ever seen. The hegemony had built a massive installation in the heart of the nebula. Multiple stations connected by transport tubes created a complex that was part military base, part shipyard, and part research facility. Dozens of alien vessels moved between the stations, and Marcus could see what appeared to be construction work on several new ship designs. My God, Sarah whispered. It's a full manufacturing complex. Sir, David reported, I count at least 40 hegemony vessels of various sizes. And there, he paused, adjusting his scanner settings. There are missing patrol ships. All 3 of them are docked to the central station. Marcus studied the display, noting the positions of enemy ships and the layout of the installation. Any rescue attempt would have to deal with overwhelming numbers of hostile forces. But he also noticed something else. The patrol ships appear to be intact. Marcus observed. If the hegemony wanted to destroy them, they would have done so already. They're keeping them for a reason. Elena had been monitoring their ship's systems throughout their approach, and she came over to Marcus with an expression of amazement. Captain, the Resilience is doing something incredible, she said. The ship's stealth systems are adapting to the nebular conditions. We're practically invisible to normal sensors right now. How is that possible? Marcus asked. The hull plating is somehow modulating its reflective properties to match the background nebular radiation. It's like the ship is using the nebula as camouflage. Marcus looked around the bridge, once again marveling at what the Resilience was proving capable of. The ship that nobody wanted was demonstrating abilities that could change the entire course of their mission. Sir, Sarah said quietly, I'm receiving very faint transmissions from one of our patrol ships. It's Captain Rodriguez from the UES Defender. Can you clean up the signal? Sarah worked at her console for several minutes before shaking her head. The transmission is too degraded by nebular interference. But it's definitely coming from the Defender, and it's definitely Captain Rodriguez's personal code. Marcus weighed his options. The smart tactical decision would be to return to base and report the hegemony installation, then wait for a full fleet response. But the personal decision was to attempt a rescue of the captured crews, even against impossible odds. Chief, how close can we get to that central station without being detected? Marcus asked. Elena consulted her readings. With our current stealth capabilities, maybe within a few hundred kilometers. But if we start active scanning or power up our weapons, they'll spot us immediately. Mr. Kim, can our weapons do any significant damage to a station that size? David ran quick calculations. Our main guns could damage individual sections, but We don't have enough firepower to destroy the entire installation. We might be able to disable specific systems if we target them precisely. Marcus studied the tactical display for several more minutes, formulating a plan that was either brilliant or completely insane. Given the Resilience's track record so far, he was betting on brilliant. "Here's what we're going to do," Marcus announced. "We're going to use the Resilience's unique capabilities to create a rescue opportunity. Chief, can our engines produce enough power to overload one of their power stations?" "Probably, sir, but we'd have to get very close, and the feedback could damage our own systems." "Mr. Kelvik, can you calculate a course that would take us close to their central station, allow us to disable their power systems, and still give us an escape route?" Kelvik's 4 eyes focused on his navigation displays. "It would be extremely dangerous, Captain. We would be flying through the heart of their defensive perimeter. But can it be done? With this ship, perhaps. The Resilience's unusual maneuvering characteristics might allow us to navigate routes that their sensors would not anticipate." Marcus looked around the bridge once more. 14 crew members, 1 impossible ship, and a rescue mission that defied all reasonable odds. It was exactly the kind of situation where heroes were made or disasters occurred. "All right, people. We're going to rescue our captured crews. This will not be a standard military operation. We're going to rely on speed, surprise, and the fact that the hegemony has no idea what the Resilience is capable of." Sarah looked concerned. "Sir, what about backup? Shouldn't we at least try to contact the fleet? We'll send a complete intelligence report to command before we begin the rescue operation," Marcus assured her. "But we're not waiting for reinforcements. By the time they arrive, our people could be dead or transferred somewhere we'll never find them." "How do we extract the captured crews?" David asked. Marcus had been thinking about that problem since they first detected the installation. "We create chaos and confusion, disable their power systems, and use the Resilience's stealth capabilities to get close enough for boarding operations." "Sir," Elena said carefully, "that plan requires everything to go perfectly. What if something goes wrong?" Marcus smiled grimly. "Chief, nothing about this mission has gone according to plan so far. We've been adapting and improvising since we left Earth. I see no reason to stop now." Over the next 2 hours, the crew of the Resilience prepared for their impossible rescue mission. Elena fine-tuned their engines to produce maximum power output while maintaining stealth capabilities. David programmed their weapons to target specific systems on the hegemony installation. Kelvik calculated approach routes that would minimize their exposure to enemy sensors. As they prepared to begin their attack run, Marcus realized that this mission would define not only their careers but the future role of ships like the Resilience. If they succeeded, it would prove that unconventional solutions could overcome seemingly impossible odds. If they failed, it would confirm Command's belief that experimental ships and misfit crews were too unreliable for important missions. "All stations report ready, Captain," Sarah announced. Marcus settled into his captain's chair and looked out at the hegemony installation on the main view screen. Somewhere in that complex were dozens of human military personnel who had trusted their government to rescue them if they were captured. Today, that rescue would come from the least likely source imaginable, a garbage scow that nobody wanted, crewed by people that nobody else would take. "Mr. Kelvik, begin our approach. Take us in." As the Resilience began its silent approach toward the heart of enemy territory, Marcus felt the familiar weight of command settle on his shoulders. But this time, it didn't feel heavy. It felt like exactly where he belonged, doing exactly what he was meant to do. The rescue of their captured crews was about to begin, and the galaxy was about to learn what happened when you underestimated the things that nobody wanted. Story Part 4: The Resilience glided through the nebula like a ghost ship, her hull somehow absorbing and redirecting the ambient radiation to maintain perfect camouflage. Marcus watched the tactical display as they approached the massive hegemony installation, noting guard ship positions and defensive patterns. Everything depended on reaching the central station undetected. "Stealth systems holding at maximum efficiency," Elena reported quietly. "The ship is actually performing better than my calculations predicted." It's like she wants to stay hidden. Marcus wasn't surprised anymore by the Resilience's unexpected capabilities. Over the past few days, he had come to accept that their ship operated by rules that conventional engineering couldn't explain. Distance to target? Marcus asked. 800 kilometers and closing, Kelvik responded. I am detecting increased patrol activity around the central station. The hegemony appears to be conducting some kind of operation there. That was concerning. If the aliens were moving their prisoners or conducting experiments, the rescue window might be closing rapidly. Mr. Kim, can you identify what type of operation they're running? David adjusted his sensor readings, trying to penetrate the nebular interference. I'm seeing increased power draws from the central station, and there are several alien ships docked there that weren't there before. It looks like they're preparing for something significant. Sir, Sarah interjected, I'm receiving stronger human signals now. Multiple sources, all using emergency protocols. I think our people are trying to communicate with each other inside the station. Marcus felt time pressure building. Whatever the hegemony was planning, their captured crews were clearly aware of it and trying to coordinate some kind of response. Can you decode any of the transmissions? Marcus asked. Sarah worked at her console, applying various decryption algorithms. Partial success, sir. I'm getting fragments of messages. Something about tomorrow's transfer and keep them separated. It sounds like the hegemony is planning to move our people somewhere else. Marcus made a command decision. If their prisoners were going to be transferred, this might be their only opportunity to rescue them. Chief, how long until we're in position to disable their power systems? Elena checked her calculations. 15 minutes at current approach speed. But, sir, I should warn you that what we're planning is extremely dangerous. The power overload we'll need to generate could feed back into our own systems. What's the worst-case scenario? Our engines could overload and explode, taking half the ship with them. Marcus considered that information. 14 crew members against the certainty that dozens of captured humans would disappear forever into hegemony space. The mathematics of the situation were clear. The risk is acceptable, Marcus decided. Continue the approach. As they drew closer to the installation, more details became visible on the main view screen. The central station was enormous, easily the size of a small city. Docking bays lined its exterior, and Marcus could see their capture patrol ships secured to one of the lower levels. Sir, David reported, I'm detecting something unusual about the alien vessels docked to the station. They're not standard hegemony designs. Marcus looked at David's tactical analysis. The young weapons officer was right. Several of the ships showed design elements that didn't match known hegemony technology. Are we looking at a new class of alien ship? Marcus asked. I don't think so, sir. Some of those design elements look familiar. Marcus felt a chill of understanding. You think they're incorporating human technology? Yes, sir. It looks like they've been reverse engineering our captured ships and integrating human systems into their own vessels. That explained why the hegemony was capturing human ships instead of simply destroying them. They weren't just taking prisoners, they were stealing technology. And if Sarah's intercepted transmissions were accurate, they were about to transfer their human captives and their stolen technology to a more secure location. All right, people, Marcus announced. We go in 5 minutes. Chief, prepare for power overload on my signal. Mr. Kim, target their primary power distribution nodes. Mr. Kelvik, be ready to get us out of here fast once we've disabled their systems. Sir, Sarah said, should I try to contact Captain Rodriguez and let her know we're here? Marcus thought about it. Any transmission would reveal their position, but it might also allow the prisoners to prepare for rescue. Send a brief coded message to Captain Rodriguez's personal frequency. Tell her that help is coming and to be ready to move quickly. Sarah composed and sent the message. A few minutes later, her console chimed with an incoming transmission. Message received and acknowledged, Sarah reported. Captain Rodriguez confirms that all 3 crews are being held in the central detention area. She estimates 47 personnel total. 47 people. Marcus felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders once again. 47 military personnel who were counting on a rescue that might never come from a ship and crew that command had already written off. 2 minutes to power overload position, Elena announced. Marcus looked around the bridge one final time. His crew was calm, professional, and ready. The Resilience hummed quietly around them, her mismatched systems working in perfect harmony. Mr. Kelvik, what's our closest approach to the detention area? Approximately 200 meters, Captain, but we will be within their defensive perimeter for at least 3 minutes. 3 minutes was an eternity in a combat situation, especially when outnumbered 40-1. But Marcus had learned that the Resilience specialized in doing things that should have been impossible. 30 seconds to power overload, Elena announced. Marcus gripped the arms of his captain's chair. All stations, prepare for combat operations. 10 seconds, 5, 4, 3, initiating power, overload now. The Resilience's engines suddenly flared with incredible energy, channeling power toward the hegemony station's electrical systems. On the main view screen, Marcus watched as lights began flickering throughout the alien installation. Direct hit on their primary power distribution node, David reported. Secondary explosions are cascading through their electrical grid. Throughout the station, lights went out in sections as the power overload propagated through the alien systems. Emergency lighting activated in some areas, but large portions of the installation went completely dark. Hull breach in their docking bay 7, David continued. Their atmospheric containment is failing in multiple sections. Mr. Kelvik, take us in toward the detention area, Marcus ordered. The Resilience accelerated toward the crippled station, her stealth systems still hiding her from the confused alien sensors. Around them, hegemony ships were scrambling to respond to the sudden attack, but they couldn't locate the source of the assault. Sir, Sarah called out, I'm receiving transmissions from our captured ships. Captain Rodriguez is reporting that their crew is attempting to take control of the Defender. Marcus smiled grimly. While the hegemony was dealing with power failures and hull breaches, their prisoners were staging their own escape attempt. 2 minutes to docking, Kelvik announced. Chief, how are our engines holding up? Marcus asked. Elena checked her readings with concern. We're running hot, sir. The power overload stressed our systems more than I calculated. We've got maybe 10 minutes before we risk catastrophic failure. 10 minutes to dock with the station, rescue 47 prisoners, and escape from 40 enemy ships. Marcus had faced better odds, but he had also faced much worse. Sir, David reported, the U.S. Defender is powering up her engines. It looks like Captain Rodriguez's crew has retaken their ship. On the tactical display, Marcus could see one of their capture patrol ships beginning to move away from the station. The Defender was heavily outnumbered, but her crew was clearly determined to fight their way out. Can we coordinate with them? Marcus asked. I'm trying to establish a tactical link, Sarah replied. Yes, I've got them. Captain Rodriguez is requesting our assistance in recovering the other 2 ships. Marcus looked at the tactical situation. The Resilience could probably rescue the personnel from 1 ship, but attempting to recover all 3 capture vessels would require staying in the combat zone far longer than their damaged engines could sustain. Tell Captain Rodriguez we'll cover her escape while she recovers the other crews, Marcus decided. Sir, David interrupted, hegemony ships are converging on our position. I count at least 15 vessels moving to intercept us. The enemy was finally responding to their attack, and the odds were about to get much worse. But Marcus noticed something interesting on the tactical display. Mr. Kim, the hegemony ships seem to be having trouble with their coordination, Marcus observed. David checked his readings. You're right, sir. Their communication systems appear to have been damaged by our power overload. They're operating independently instead of as a coordinated fleet. That was exactly the kind of advantage the Resilience needed. A coordinated hegemony fleet would have overwhelmed them instantly, but individual ships operating without central command were much more manageable. 1 minute to docking, Kelvik announced. Marcus activated the ship-wide intercom. All hands, prepare for boarding operations. We have 47 people to rescue and very limited time to do it. Elena had assembled a 6-person boarding team equipped with cutting tools and portable life support. They would have to move fast once they reached the station. Docking now, Kelvik announced. The Resilience's docking clamps engaged with the alien station's hull, and Marcus felt the ship shudder slightly as the two structures connected. Go, Marcus ordered. Elena's team disappeared through the airlock into the darkened alien station. At the same time, the Resilience's defensive systems powered up to protect them from the approaching enemy ships. Sir, David called out, we're taking fire from 3 hegemony vessels. Shields at 80%. Marcus watched the tactical display as the Resilience fought to maintain her position while the rescue operation proceeded inside the station. Around them, the battle was escalating as more enemy ships arrived on the scene. But Marcus also noticed something remarkable happening. The Defender had successfully recovered the crew of the 2nd patrol ship and was moving to assist the 3rd. Captain Rodriguez was proving that human determination could overcome alien technology. Elena to bridge, came the chief engineer's voice over the intercom. We found the detention area. 47 personnel confirmed alive and ready for evacuation. How long for complete extraction? Marcus asked. Give me 4 minutes, Captain. 4 minutes. Marcus looked at the tactical display, showing 15 alien ships closing in on their position. The Resilience's shields were holding, but they couldn't sustain this level of combat for much longer. Mr. Kim, concentrate our fire on the nearest enemy ship. Let's see if we can discourage them from getting too close. The Resilience's weapons opened fire, and Marcus watched with satisfaction as their first target reeled away with heavy damage. The mismatched weapon systems were proving surprisingly effective. Sir, Sarah reported, the UES Defender and UES Ranger are both operational and heading for our position. Captain Rodriguez is requesting permission to provide covering fire. Marcus felt a surge of pride for his fellow captains. Even heavily outnumbered and operating damaged ships, they were coming to assist the rescue operation. Permission granted. Tell Captain Rodriguez to coordinate with Mr. Kim on target priorities. As the 3 human ships began fighting as a coordinated unit, Marcus realized that they were no longer the underdogs in this battle. The hegemony might have superior numbers, but the humans had superior determination and the element of surprise. Elena to bridge. All personnel evacuated and secured. We're ready to undock. Marcus smiled. Phase 1 of the impossible rescue mission was complete. Now, they just had to fight their way out of the hegemony installation and escape into the nebula. But as Marcus looked around the bridge of the Resilience, he realized that escaping might not be their biggest challenge. The ship that nobody wanted had just proved herself in combat against overwhelming odds. She had demonstrated capabilities that would reshape how the fleet thought about ship design and crew assignments. The Resilience was no longer just a garbage scow with delusions of grandeur. She was proving to be exactly what her name suggested, the ship that refused to give up, no matter how impossible the situation became. Story Part 5: The battle around the hegemony installation had evolved from a rescue mission into something approaching a full-scale engagement. Marcus watched the tactical display as the Resilience, Defender, and Ranger fought their way clear of the alien complex, covering each other's retreat while enemy ships swarmed around them. Status report. Marcus called out as the ship shuddered under enemy fire. Shields at 40%, David reported. But, sir, something strange is happening with our defensive systems. Marcus looked at the tactical readings. David was right. The Resilience's shields were fluctuating in ways that didn't match standard operation. Chief, what's happening with our shields? Marcus asked over the intercom. Elena's voice came back from the engineering section where she was coordinating damage control. Captain, the shield generators are adapting to the enemy weapons in real time. Every time the hegemony hits us with a specific frequency, our shields adjust to be more resistant to that frequency. That's impossible, Sarah said. I know it's impossible, Elena replied, but it's happening anyway. The Resilience is learning from each attack, and becoming harder to damage. Marcus wasn't entirely surprised. The ship had been demonstrating adaptive capabilities since their mission began, and combat situations seemed to accelerate those adaptations. "How are our rescued personnel?" Marcus asked. 47 crew members from the 3 patrol ships, all accounted for and in good health, Sarah reported. "Captain Rodriguez is coordinating their integration into our damage control teams." That was good news. Additional experienced personnel would be crucial for the running battle they were fighting. "Sir," Kelvik called from the helm, "I am detecting something unusual on long-range sensors. Multiple large contacts approaching from deep space." Marcus felt his heart sink. If the hegemony had called in reinforcements, their escape window was about to close permanently. "Can you identify the contacts?" Kelvik worked at his console for several moments before looking up with all 4 eyes wide in surprise. "Captain, the approaching ships are human. A full fleet task force, led by the UES Normandy. Admiral Morrison's flagship." Marcus wasn't sure if that was good news or bad news, but it was certainly unexpected. "How long until they arrive?" Marcus asked. "Approximately 20 minutes at their current speed." 20 minutes. The Resilience and her 2 companion ships had to survive 20 more minutes of combat against overwhelming odds. "Sir," David interrupted, "we're receiving a transmission from Admiral Morrison himself." Marcus felt his jaw tighten. The last time he had spoken with Morrison, the Admiral had made it clear what he thought of Marcus and his assignment to the Resilience. "Put him through," Marcus ordered. Admiral Morrison's stern face appeared on the main view screen. Behind him, Marcus could see the bridge of the Normandy bustling with combat preparations. "Captain Chun," Morrison began without preamble, "explain your current tactical situation." Marcus straightened in his captain's chair. "Admiral, we have successfully rescued 47 captured personnel from a major hegemony installation. We are currently fighting our way clear of the enemy complex." Morrison's expression remained unreadable. "You engage a superior enemy force without authorization and without backup." "Yes, sir. The intelligence we gathered indicated that the captured crews were about to be transferred. This was our only opportunity to recover them. And now you're trapped in a combat situation that requires a fleet intervention to resolve." Marcus felt anger building in his chest. "Sir, we identified a major threat to human space and took action to neutralize it. The hegemony was building a full industrial complex in the nebula, including ship construction and technology integration facilities." For the first time, Morrison's expression changed slightly. "Explain." "The aliens weren't just raiding our shipping lanes, Admiral. They were establishing a permanent base of operations and reverse engineering captured human technology. If we had waited for a proper fleet response, they would have completed their preparations and been much more difficult to dislodge." Morrison studied Marcus for several long moments. Around the bridge of the Resilience, the crew continued fighting the ship while listening to the conversation. "Captain Chun," Morrison finally said, "when this engagement is complete, you will transfer command of rescued personnel to Captain Rodriguez and report to the Normandy for debriefing." "Understood, Admiral." Admiral Morrison to all ships. Morrison continued, addressing the broader fleet. "The Resilience, Defender, and Ranger are operating under emergency conditions. All vessels will coordinate with Captain Chun until extraction is complete." The transmission ended, leaving Marcus staring at a blank screen. Morrison's words had been carefully chosen to avoid either criticism or praise, but the fact that the Admiral was placing fleet resources under Marcus's tactical command suggested something significant. "Sir," Sarah said quietly, "I think Admiral Morrison just gave you operational control of the rescue." Marcus realized she was right. By ordering the fleet to coordinate with him, Morrison had effectively placed Marcus in charge of the immediate tactical situation. "Mr. Kim, coordinate with the approaching fleet. I want targeting priorities established before they arrive." "Yes, sir." Captain Rodriguez is also requesting tactical coordination between our 3 ships. Marcus pulled up the overall tactical display. The hegemony installation was still partially operational, and Enemy ships were continuing to launch from various docking bays. But the power overload had clearly damaged their coordination capabilities, and many alien ships were operating independently. All ships, this is Captain Chun. Marcus announced on the fleet frequency. We're going to use the confusion we've created to maximum advantage. Concentrate fire on the installation's remaining power systems and command centers. Over the next 15 minutes, the battle evolved from a desperate escape to a systematic dismantling of the hegemony complex. The arriving human fleet added overwhelming firepower to the engagement, but it was the tactical intelligence gathered by the resilience that made the victory possible. Marcus watched with satisfaction as the alien installation's defensive systems failed one by one. Secondary explosions cascaded through the structure as critical systems overloaded, and enemy ships began retreating deeper into the nebula. "Sir," David reported, "the installation's primary command center has been destroyed. Enemy resistance is collapsing." "Admiral Morrison, to all ships," came the Admiral's voice over the communication system. "Cease fire and secure the area. The hegemony installation is no longer a threat." As the battle ended, Marcus found himself looking around the bridge of the Resilience with a mixture of pride and amazement. His crew had successfully infiltrated enemy territory, rescued 47 captured personnel, and provided the intelligence that allowed a full fleet to destroy a major hegemony base. "Captain," Elena's voice came over the intercom, "I'm getting some interesting readings from our engines. The stress of combat seems to have triggered new adaptations in our power systems." Marcus wasn't surprised. The Resilience had been evolving throughout their mission, and combat had simply accelerated that evolution. "What kind of adaptations?" Marcus asked. "Efficiency improvements, mostly, but also some capabilities I don't understand. Sir, I think this ship is becoming something that human engineering has never produced before." Before Marcus could respond, Admiral Morrison's face appeared on the main view screen again. "Captain Chun, you will dock with the Normandy in 30 minutes for debriefing. Captain Rodriguez will assume tactical command of the rescue operation." "Understood, Admiral." Morrison paused before continuing. "Captain, the intelligence you gathered about hegemony operations in this region is significant. We'll need complete details about everything you observed." "Of course, Admiral." The transmission ended, and Marcus began preparing to transfer to the Admiral's flagship. As he gathered his reports and briefing materials, he found himself thinking about what the mission had revealed about the Resilience and her capabilities. An hour later, Marcus stood in Admiral Morrison's private briefing room aboard the Normandy. The Admiral had reviewed all of Marcus's reports and was asking detailed questions about the Resilience's performance during the mission. "Your ship demonstrated capabilities that aren't documented in any technical manual," Morrison observed. "Adaptive stealth systems, learning combat protocols, self-improving power generation. How do you explain these phenomena?" Marcus had been wondering about that himself. "Admiral, I believe the Resilience represents an accidental breakthrough in ship design. When desperate engineers cobbled together systems from different sources, they inadvertently created something new. A ship that learns and adapts." "Yes, sir." The different computer systems began networking with each other in ways that weren't planned or programmed. Over time, they developed emergent capabilities that exceed the sum of their individual parts. Morrison walked over to the briefing room's viewport and stared out at the Resilience, which was docked nearby. "Captain Chun, what you're describing could revolutionize ship design and fleet operations." "I believe it could, Admiral." Morrison turned back to Marcus. "The question is whether we can replicate it. The Resilience may be unique, or she may be the prototype for an entirely new class of vessel." Marcus thought about his crew and their ship. "Sir, I think the key factor isn't just the technology. It's the people. The Resilience works because she has a crew that treats her like more than just a machine." "Explain." "Every member of my crew has been written off by the system at some point. We've all been considered expendable or unreliable. When we came together on the Resilience, we formed a partnership with a ship that goes beyond normal crew-vessel relationships." Morrison nodded slowly. You're suggesting that the ship's adaptive capabilities are enhanced by the crew's emotional investment. I'm suggesting that consciousness and intelligence come in many forms, Admiral. The Resilience has developed her own form of awareness, and she responds to crews that recognize and respect that awareness. Morrison was quiet for several long minutes, processing the implications of Marcus's words. Finally, he returned to his desk and activated his computer terminal. Captain Shun, you are hereby promoted to the rank of Commodore, with authority to establish a new ship development program. Your mission is to study the Resilience's capabilities and develop protocols for creating similar vessels. Marcus felt stunned. Admiral, I thank you, sir. Don't thank me yet, Commodore. You're going to be responsible for convincing the fleet brass that cobbled together ships crewed by misfits represent the future of space combat. Morrison stood and walked Marcus to the door. Commodore, the galaxy is changing. The hegemony is developing new technologies, and we need to develop new capabilities to match them. The Resilience has shown us that unconventional solutions can be more effective than traditional approaches. As Marcus prepared to return to his ship, Morrison added one final comment. Commodore, the Resilience was built from spare parts that nobody wanted. You've proven that sometimes the things we discard contain exactly what we need. Marcus returned to the Resilience with a new rank, a new mission, and a new understanding of what his ship represented. As he walked onto the bridge, he found his crew waiting with expressions of curiosity and anticipation. Well, Captain, Elena asked, what's our next assignment? Marcus looked around at the mismatched panels, jury-rigged systems, and faces of the crew that had become his family. The Resilience hummed quietly around them, her adaptive systems continuing to evolve and improve. We're going to change how the fleet thinks about ships and crews, Marcus announced. The Resilience isn't just a vessel anymore. She's proof that intelligence, consciousness, and capability can emerge from the most unlikely sources. Sarah smiled. So we're keeping her? Marcus settled into his captain's chair and looked out at the stars through the main view screen. Somewhere out there, the hegemony was developing new threats and new technologies. But humanity now had something the aliens wouldn't expect. Ships that learned, crews that adapted, and the willingness to embrace possibilities that conventional wisdom declared impossible. We're keeping her, Marcus confirmed, and we're going to build more ships just like her. As the Resilience undocked from the Normandy and headed back toward human space, Marcus realized that their mission was just beginning. The ship that nobody wanted had become the vessel that everyone needed, and the crew of misfits had proven that sometimes the most important discoveries came from the least likely sources. The galaxy was about to learn that in the hands of the right people, even spare parts could become legendary.